Hey everyone, it's Cory McCarthy and thank you for tuning in. I feel that this is a brief video that needed to be done to bring some new research to light that most people might not be aware of yet, especially given the ever-rising current political and social tensions, complete with the political correctness, thought policing, and censorship. The title of this video says it all, but for the non-brain dead among us, what I'm going to discuss is likely already painfully obvious just from simple interaction and observation of far-left progressives. The good news is, research finally supports what we've observed all along, that social justice warriors, or SJWs for short, are often fucking hypocrites, as well as immoral and self-serving, but more on that in a moment. What's a social justice warrior, some of you might ask? Believe it or not, some folks do ask this question, so I will honor it with a definition.
According to Wikipedia, social justice warrior is a contemptuous term for any individual promoting socially progressive views like feminism, multiculturalism, and identity politics. And here's an important caveat. Being called an SJW carries implications of pursuing personal validation rather than any deep-seated conviction, and being engaged in disingenuous social justice arguments or activism to raise personal reputation, also known as virtue signaling. Virtue signaling being the action or practice of publicly expressing opinions or sentiments intended to demonstrate one's good character or the moral correctness of one's position on a particular issue.
SJWs absolutely love to virtue signal. It is a defining trait. One common example of virtue signaling you'll often encounter on social media would be people who think that everyone else remotely cares if they unsubscribe from someone or leave some group. Furthermore, not only do they announce their exit publicly in a post or a comment, but they also feel the need to explain why that they're leaving and sometimes ask others to join them, even going so far as to include subtle guilt trips. For instance, I am unsubscribing from Channel X because Channel X promotes Islamophobia, and everyone else who is a good person should do the same. As researchers have discovered, these types of people are usually guilty on some level for trespassing in whatever arena that they're publicly outraged about.
According to research findings published in the journal Motivation and Emotion this past April, which was based on 5 separate studies, expressing, and I quote, "moral outrage at third-party transgressions is sometimes a means of reducing guilt over one's own moral failings and restoring a moral identity."
In other words, the people who display public anger or discontent about perceived injustices, especially those that do not affect them personally.
Like white Black Lives Matter supporters. Or self-proclaimed feminists who, ironically, support Islam.
Are often doing so out of self-interest in order to subdue their own feelings of guilt for societal harms that they've caused, and also to ensure that others view them as good people. Because, to quote the study authors,
feelings of guilt are a direct threat to one's sense that they are a moral person. And accordingly, research on guilt finds that this emotion elicits strategies aimed at alleviating guilt that do not always involve undoing one's actions.
In other words, all talk and or show, virtue signaling to cover up one's own guilt, a total facade. To quickly summarize some of the key findings from the research.
1. When you trigger feelings of guilt, the level of moral outrage increases. Think of it this way. Did you say something that triggered a social justice warrior? The angrier that they got at whatever you said, the more guilty of that very thing they likely are, according to research. 2. And the more guilt those who are triggered feel, the more they also want to punish their target. 3. And the more they express this outrage, the less guilt they feel for their own immoral behavior. 4. And the more opportunities provided to express outrage at corporate harm doers, the more moral they viewed themselves as. One example of this would be America shaming. 5. Finally, if people were allowed to assert their goodness in some way before being triggered, the less moral outrage they expressed afterwards, even if in a totally unrelated context.
This reminds me of a quote from the film Taken. Dig deep enough and there's always shit.
Remember that quote the next time some wildebeest or stick figure of a social justice warrior gets in your face.
And remember this study. I've linked it, plus an article reviewing it, over at my blog, linked in the description. I hope you all have enjoyed this video and found it enlightening, perhaps even useful. There is definitely an infestation of social justice warriors in the vegan community, which is certainly a reason that I've made this video. And why eventually Isaac of Ask Yourself and I will be doing a video about intersectionals. We've both just been incredibly busy with other priorities in the meantime. Anyhow, please drop some comments below and hit the like or even the dislike button, I don't really give a shit, and share this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button to keep on top of my updates. And with that, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.